Before, in our streets, we used to see this instead of that, or this in place of that. Seriously, when was the last time you saw a real convertible? We called them Roadster, Spider, Targa, Convertible, light, low, and elegant. Open-top cars designed for enjoyment. Since we're in the middle of summer, it's the perfect time to talk about it and try to understand why. In recent years, they've disappeared. Disappeared from dealerships, catalogs, test centers, in short, disappeared from the market. For years, driving with the top down was classy. The luxury of open air and sun on your neck, a useless yet essential pleasure. Today, most manufacturers have just taken them out of their lineup. In 2004, over 3% of new cars sold in France were convertibles. 1 car out of 30, and today it's 0.2%, 1 car out of 500. Back then, every major manufacturer had a convertible. Renault, Peugeot, Ford, Opel, and even Volkswagen with the EOS discontinued in 2015. Now it's over. Renault and Peugeot have no convertibles left. Opel has given up, and even Ford, known for its convertible Mustang, has made major cutbacks. Sales in Europe have quickly disappeared. Convertible sales dropped from 320,000 in 2007 to just 90,000 today, less than a quarter. The same decline happened in the United States. 200,000 units in 2006, under 50,000 last year. This body style isn't just declining, it's now nearly extinct. Yet, whether we're talking about a 306, an MX, 5 a Pagode, or a Type E, the convertible is the only car that makes passers-by smile, even when it's standing still. And even though it represents pure driving pleasure today, the default car is a grey hybrid SUV with Bose sound system, massage seats, and an electric range of 100 kilometers. So, how did we go from the passionate roadster to the depressing crossover? In this video, we'll explore the history, golden age, and beauty of convertibles and examine why they're disappearing. This species is sensual, light, useless, and irresistible. Before it became endangered, the convertible was simply the car. The first cars were literally motorized carriages, without a roof, without doors, and above all, without any hang-ups. By the late 19th century, as engines grew more powerful, some models featured foldable canvas or leather roofs, which have names that are a bit forgotten today. For example, the Phaeton. A two-seater with a temporary roof, the Brougham or Town Coupe had a closed passenger compartment in the back, while the driver stayed outside at the front. Having a roof was a social marker. The rich had shelter, while others were exposed. On the 1927 Bugatti Royale, the driver sits outside while passengers relax in a rear lounge. For those who liked driving with the wind in their hair. There was also the Landaulet, with a fixed roof for the driver and a folding soft top for the passenger area. A term later used for a wild Mercedes G-Class, also made to carry the powerful outdoors. Early in the century, more affordable cars such as runabouts, sporty roadsters, or touring cars were usually open or had a simple soft roof. In the 1920s, steel body production made hardtops easier and cheaper to produce, making them more accessible. Closed cars became common for the public. Meanwhile, convertible models, which were more beautiful with their sleeker silhouette, began to become symbols of prestige. In 1928, Duesenberg launched its Model J convertible, a symbol of its era driven by aristocrats, the wealthy, and celebrities. Al Capone, Greta Garbo, Howard Hughes, Clark Gable. Just a year later, the 1929 stock market crash marks the start of the Great Depression. Especially in the United States, this will slow many car makers, especially luxury brands. Duesenberg survived only because of Hollywood. In the 1930s, the Model J was so prestigious that Hollywood stars like James Cagney posed with it to enhance their careers. Back then, convertibles for sale were luxury models, expensive and exclusive to the elite. This is the era of the Delay 135 Bugatti Type 57 Atalante and Mercedes 540 Special Roadster. In 1939, Plymouth introduced the first mechanically assisted sunroof. But did the demand for convertibles really increase after the Second World War? When American soldiers stationed in France and the United Kingdom discovered small European roadsters like the Morris Garage's Triumph or Austin Healey, they left a lasting impression on them. Small light cars, uncomfortable but direct, connected and unforgettable. This was when Italy proved itself with the Alfa Romeo Giulietta Spider, Fiat 1200 Cabriolet, and Lancia Aurelia B24. After the Great Depression and the war, suffering was widespread. A wave of freedom emerged, aligning with the convertibles concept. In the 50s and 60s, American manufacturers adopted them across their lineup. From compact, economical cars like the American Rambler and Studebaker Lark to prestigious models such as the Packard Caribbean, Oldsmobile 98, and Chrysler Imperial. The Ford Fairlane 500 Skyliner, made from 1957 to 1959, is the best example of this enthusiasm, an unidentified flying object on wheels. Which was the world's first production car with an electrically retractable hardtop. Back then, it seemed almost magical. A large metal roof that folds into the trunk automatically using motors, relays, cables, actuators, and an electromechanical computer. The system weighed nearly 600 kilograms, but produced a spectacular car that embodied the American space age. Big rear fins, lots of chrome, and a beltline resembling a rocket prototype. Well, in reality, the most patriotic among us will say that the Americans didn't invent anything. Nearly 25 years before the Skyliner, France introduced the retractable hardtop convertible with the 1934 Peugeot 400, an Eclipse. Designed by Georges Paulin, a dentist-turned-genius designer, it was history's first hardtop convertible coupe. Unlike the Ford, everything here was manual, with no motor or hydraulics. It was a brilliant but slightly premature idea. In the 60s, convertibles were often offered as a main body style option for models. To be cool, you got a convertible, like a Corvette, Alfa Speeder, Morris Garages B, or Triumph Roadster. 4. You could attract girls with a Renault Caravelle because its convertible design symbolized carefreeness. The Dolce Vita car on the French Riviera, driven by Steve McQueen, Brigitte Bardot, and James Dean. It was also an aesthetic statement because without a roof, the design is laid bare. While sedans can use a sloped roof or hatchbacks a sharp cut, convertibles require pure proportions. The hood is longer, the rear is shorter, the windshield is slanted. Just the right amount, it's a rolling sculpture. Often, the convertible is the best-looking version of a model. The 1960s, 70s, and 80s were the golden age. Everyone wants a convertible. It's the age of the Porsche 911 Targa, Mercedes Sport-like Pagoda, and Jaguar-type Roadster. Cars that didn't just age well, but became icons for what they represent today. A lost balance between style, performance, and a little touch of uselessness and nonchalance that makes all of this desirable. It wasn't limited to the elite. Even popular brands joined in. Peugeot 304, Méhari, Renault 5, Belle-Île, Cucinelle Cabriolet, and later the 205, CTI, the Golf, a Fiat Punto Cabrio, Opel Astra Twin Top, Renault Megane Coupe Cabriolet. Even the world's dullest car makers, like Skoda, dared to try. The little Felicia Cabriolet was everywhere for years, in commercials, music videos, and television series. It's the symbol of a fun car, and I would even say it's the opposite of an SUV. It's useless, carries nothing, isn't reassuring or practical, and in a changing world, that's a lot. This is when convertibles began to fold away in the early 2000s as manufacturers aimed to do everything at once. This marks the start of the famous coupe convertible era, with cars opting for retractable hardtops over traditional soft tops. For comfort, soundproofing, and compromise. Still on paper, it seemed like a good idea. But in reality, these were often temperamental systems that broke down, trunks cut in half, and above all, completely ruined proportions. A good example of this awkwardness is the Peugeot 307 Coupe Cabriolet, an ordinary car Peugeot tried to make more appealing. To shine on Sundays at the coast. Except here's the thing. To fit a full hardtop in the trunk, they sacrificed any grace on a car that was already unimpressive. The roofline is uneven, the rear bulky, and the overhangs excessive. From the side, it looks like the car has an oversized backpack. Worst of all, this was meant to be sexy. The 307 Coupe Cabriolet promised an affordable, modern, practical convertible. Instead of lightness and elegance, we got heaviness. Though it's a textbook case, don't worry, it wasn't the only one. Many convertibles then looked worse than their sedan counterparts. They stopped being made for pleasure and became products to fill a marketing segment. And that's the first step in a long descent into hell that continues to this day. In fact, the convertible didn't die of a heart attack, but rather from a layer cake of reasons. And the first one is safety. A convertible is fragile. No roof, no side reinforcements, no rigid structure in case of a rollover, and catastrophic crash test results. While safety has become more and more important, they added metal reinforcements and retractable roll bars to pass the Euro New Car Assessment Program test. This process ruins the weight, price, and handling, since a convertible that scores well on the test is usually too heavy to be fun. Aerodynamics is the second setback. In a world focused on carbon monoxide, 2 fuel use, and worldwide harmonized light vehicles test procedure range, convertibles are a nightmare. Driving with the top down disrupts airflow, causing a vortex that raises fuel use and noise. Even with the top up, a convertible is heavier, less rigid, and less aerodynamic. After spending 5 years optimizing the underbody to save 0.1 liters per 100 kilometers, you won't ruin it with a roof hole. Third attack, platform modularity. Now, 10 models share one technical base and each variant must be profitable from the design stage. A convertible is terrible for that, since much of the bodywork needs redoing. New tests, new structural calculations, all that for ridiculous volume and uncertain margins. No, thank you. We just go for it. A more exclusive Gran Turismo, line hybrid coupe SUV that makes a profit and is safer. Fourth issue, the Chinese market. Manufacturers rarely mention that it's nearly 30% of the global market, but convertibles don't sell there. People rarely open windows due to pollution, and culturally, driving with the top down is viewed as undignified. So why develop a cabrio version if your biggest market will never want it? It would be like making down jackets and hoping to sell them in Qatar. In short, today the convertible has become a technical headache, a commercial suicide, and a technological anachronism. In a world favoring glass roofs and quiet typical cars. And the most ironic thing about all this is that the convertible, which was originally the simplest form of car, has now become the hardest to justify. That silhouette, once universal, is now elitist, a shift from an accessible dream to a luxury whim. And if you want a new convertible in 2025, you have to look well beyond 50,000 euros. So, even if we agree that the market right now is a big parking lot full of grey SUVs, the convertible isn't completely dead, and there are still a few diehards holding out. It's no longer central to the village, but now isolated in the elite's fortress. Bentley Continental Gran Turismo convertible, Rolls-Royce Dawn, Ferrari Roma Spider, Porsche 911, Cabrio Mercedes Sport, Leicht BMW 8 Series Cabriolet. These models still exist because they've never aimed to be reasonable. They don't try to please everyone, but strive for perfection for those who can afford them. That's good, because here, pleasure needs no justification. We're not discussing practicality or cost-to-space ratio, but focusing on what truly matters: style, presence, and beauty. Then, there are a few holdouts, models that are still holding the line, as if they haven't gotten the memo that it's all over, especially among German manufacturers. Now, there's a new method for making SUV-based convertibles. Out of respect for you, I won't discuss that. Instead, I want to talk about the survivor, the convertible, which I think is one of the most iconic on the market. I'm referring to the Mazda MX-5. Mazda's MX-5 is a classic lightweight roadster with a timeless, simple design, produced for over 30 years across 4 generations. Like selling a pocket knife, meant for those in the know, not everyone. The brand also showcased an impressive concept I mentioned earlier this year, which should align with the current version. What impressed me most during the presentation, beyond the car's design, were Masahiro Moro's words, Mazda's chief executive officer. We have many great SUVs available, but as we move toward a more diverse mobility industry, I would like to firmly focus on what Mazda stands for, which is the joy of driving. The MX-5 perfectly illustrates this, as these cars are made to enrich our lives. At a time when even passionate brands like Alfa Romeo, Lotus, and Alpine no longer really dare, this kind of message has become rare, and it's nice to hear. Will a generation ever rediscover the joy of driving under a starry sky, or is that lost forever? The history of the automobile is full of things declared obsolete too soon. Retro cars, for example, were once seen as uncool. Then the Fiat Cinquecento returned and sold rapidly. Not for its logic, but for its story. For years, American muscle cars were like dinosaurs. Then the Dodge Challenger, Mustang, and Camaro returned powerfully, as if the V8 was the obvious answer. So, when it comes to convertibles, it's true that we could be pessimistic. The market doesn't want them anymore, engineers don't want them anymore, investors don't want them anymore. But the truth is, trends come and go, and sometimes what we thought was outdated comes back with an even stronger aura. In a tech-driven, logical, and silent world, we'll always need something useless. Something that brings a little smile when you start up and gives you chills. My very personal opinion on the subject is that driving isn't always about going from point A to point B. Sometimes it's just a chance to relax or enjoy the ride. Nothing in that area is purer than a convertible.